Okay, awesome, awesome. So, guys, let me just give you another introduction. So, Haseeb joined Break into Tech about 6 months ago. He comes from a retail sales background. He worked at Rolex for a few years and a few and a few other high-end fashion brands where he was doing sales. He also tried recruitment for a while, so he did have some sales experience, but he didn't have any tech experience. He landed his tech sales job 3 months ago as a sales developer representative at a company called Achievers, okay, which is a HR tech company. And he's been a sales developer representative for about 3 months. And today we're going to ask him how he's doing, how he's getting on, what his experience has been like, and you guys can step in, just put your hand up and ask any questions that you have. So to kick off, Haseeb, do you want to just give people a bit of an intro about your background, your experience, your work experience before this tech sales job, and just a little bit of a background would be great.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Haseeb, as Bilal mentioned. So I've been working like high-end retail for the last 5 to 6 years. So started off with menswear clothing, then I went over to watches, and in that done a bit of recruitment as well. I just felt like I had a lot of skills that I could have learned and taken over to the tech industry.
Yeah.
And that's where I sort of came across Bilal's, and I felt like, you know what, let me just go ahead and sort of go for it, because there were a lot of transferable skills which I could take to my current job role. And so my previous role. So that's where I'm at currently.
Awesome, awesome. And then how long did it take you to land your tech sales job? So you joined the Break into Tech Accelerator program. From when you joined until you successfully landed your tech sales job, how long was the process?
So for me, it was bang on 3 months. So I've joined, and then of course along the way you had interviews, you fail, you learn, and then you move forward. So bang on within 3 months, or even actually maybe before, a week or two before, I landed the role in tech sales.
Nice. Okay, so just about 3 months, about 10 weeks, 11 weeks.
Yeah.
How many interviews did you actually have before you landed this role?
So I believe I had about four.
Oh, really? Just four
Yeah,
interviews?
3 or 4.
That's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
That's not that much.
It's not that much, but for my sort of background, because I've not worked in a sort of a corporate role before. So when I went into these interviews, I was very like nervous because there's many stages. But I felt like the more I'd done them, that's how I overcome them. And I've done them by, of course, recording the interviews and getting feedback from yourself and from people in the community, and then going back and learning, taking those learning steps and going in and going in for it, basically.
Yeah, got it, got it. The biggest struggle I feel like a lot of students have in the program, like even people that joined before you and even current students, right, is the interview process. What do you think, what were your main challenges throughout the interview process at the beginning? Like what were you failing on? What were the main challenges when you were interviewing for these sales jobs?
I think it's quite important to not over talk, not talk too much, keep everything brief and to the point, and make it relatable to what they want to hear. As well as that, I think research is very crucial and key. There's probably about loads of people applying for that role. Why do you want it so bad? What insights, what research have you done? What has the role related to you that you want it more than somebody else, if that sort of makes sense? And I feel like if you can sort of do your research and have those clear answers, I think personally you'll be fine.
So researching, that's really key, and not over talking. Yeah. What
Yeah.
was the so you had 4 interviews, you obviously failed 3 and you got 1. What was the main difference in your last one that got you the job? Like what do you think was a key thing that, you know, actually got you the job offer compared to the previous 3 interviews?
I think with this one, I was a bit clear in my mindset, I had a clear mindset. I knew what I was getting into. I reached out to the hiring manager, so we built a bit of rapport, which I think is quite crucial. If you can build a bit of rapport with your hiring manager or someone within the company. And I just feel like everything just seemed right. And I think I'd done a bit more preparation for this one. But because before this role, before this interview, I had another interview which went really well. And the only reason why I didn't get the role is because it was super competitive, and another guy was just a bit better. And when I asked for feedback, that's the only thing he said. The other guy was just a bit better than you. Apart from that, the feedback was you've done nothing wrong. I feel like that confidence grew in me, so hence why I sort of knew that I sort of had this one in the bag.
Okay, got it. Yeah, it was building your confidence and building rapport with the hiring manager. How did you build rapport with the hiring manager? Did you email him? Did you what did you do?
So what I done was I reached out to him on LinkedIn. So I just randomly one night scrolling through LinkedIn job boards and stuff, and just reached out to him as he was hiring. We got talking, and then we had initial first conversation. Got speaking. I found out that he supports Tottenham and I'm Arsenal, so I said to him that, you know what, I don't feel like I'm going to get this role. Sort of laughed about it, yeah, sort of thing. And then we just went from there. Just went from strength to strength. He was quite open and transparent in the interviews. He goes, look, I'm an open book. I say it how it is. I'm going to put you through the next stage, and then from there, sky's the limit.
That is sick. So you just basically messaged him on LinkedIn and you did some research on his background to then have that conversation and build that common ground. Basically, rapport basically means common ground. Like if you think about how society works, people hang out with people that they look like. People hang out with people that they have the same beliefs with. People get married to people that look like them. Like rapport is building common ground. Like you have natural things that you can build common ground, and then there's things that you just use to build up rapport. And this is like football, right? People love football. They have Arsenal, Tottenham, whatever. Have a chit chat. Show them that you have a personality. Show them that you're a human being. Okay. Before I dive into my questions, there's a question from Gerardad here. How did you land interviews? What was the process that you used to land interviews? This is the question from Gerardad.
So my best technique that I'll give out to everyone in this community right now is that cold applications are cold themselves, right? I feel like a powerful way to get more interviews and speak with more hiring managers is to reach out. If that could be reach out via LinkedIn or the email address or calling them, I think that's very more powerful. I feel like you got to strategize a bit differently, because you got to think that if you go to like any SDR role now, there's over 100 people that have applied.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that only 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 have probably reached out to the hiring manager. I think you've got to be very different. And and I feel like if you can do those things, and especially if you can get their number and catch them at a time, and basically sell yourself on a spot and hold that conversation with them, they will see that you can do it to a prospect in their company.
Yeah.
when they're sort of when you're trying to reach out, basically.
Yeah. So it's basically doing the job of an SDR before you get the SDR job. Like you're prospecting, you're calling, you're emailing, you're building rapport, you're building relationships with the decision maker, which is what a sales job is all about, right? So that's a really good answer to a really good question. If anyone else has a question, it's even better if you unmute yourself or like put your hand up and you can ask Haseeb the question. But let me carry on with my question about, so we talked about the interview process. Now that you've landed the job, I'm afraid I'll go to you in a second, but now that you've landed the job, Haseeb, what has been your overall experience? So you've been at this company, you've done a tech sales job for 3 months, like 3 months now. What are the positives? Tell us about the negatives. Tell us about the the wins, the losses, the challenges. Give us an overall summary of your experience over the last 3 months.
So overall, I'll probably say throughout my career, this is probably the best decision I made. I was normally used to a sales role which people come to me and I'll probably give them some information or advice. But I feel like this sort of going out, calling prospects, calling clients, and having a hustler mindset, I think that's more beneficial for me, for my self-development and in my career. Because you got to think about, you're going out calling someone who doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you can get on a conversation with them for, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes and book an appointment, I feel like those sort of skills will take you way further down the line. I feel like, if that sort of makes sense.
Absolutely. Like, this is a tough job. Let's be real. Let's not kid ourselves, right? The reason that people can make 500K a year in tech sales is because it is very hard. It's extremely tough. Only the 1% make it, right? Let's face it. And the fact about the point you made about self-development, sales is the greatest thing that you could ever do in life to self-develop. Like self-development equals sales. Sales equals the best self-development. So I totally agree. McFred, what's your question, brother, to Haseeb?
Yeah, hi, Haseeb. Nice to meet you. But my question is, if you were starting if you're trying to start again as a SDR today, what would you do differently?
McFred. So what I'll do differently is, I don't think I would. What do you mean, as in getting a job or just like going into the role
getting
itself?
Let's say you know what you know today. You have to start again from scratch today. What would you do?
I'll probably do the same thing. I'll probably call hiring managers more. I don't think I would send CVs. I'll probably call hiring managers, or I would reach out via email or LinkedIn. I wouldn't apply for any role, to be honest. And what I'll also do is I'll use LinkedIn wisely and connect and make connections with different people from different orgs, which I can sort of build relationship with, and they can sort of give me a bit of a referral or something like that. But I don't think I would apply straight away.
Why wouldn't you apply?
Because I don't think it's very useful applying. I feel like these people get hundreds and hundreds of applications. I feel like these people want to see something different. And I feel like if I was an SDR manager myself and someone called me at 10 o'clock in the morning and says, hey, Haseeb, I know you're hiring, looking for an SDR. Let me tell you why I think I'll be a great fit, this, that, and the other. And if he captures my attention and if he sells himself and he tells me why he wants to work for me briefly, I'll be more inclined to speak with him more because I'll know that he's someone that's went out his way to get my number or to email me and to get me on the phone for a good 5 to 7 minutes, if that sort of makes sense, instead of someone just mass applying or like the normal sort of route that people do via applying.
Yeah. Okay. So you just message SDR managers or just hire managers, or was it a mixture of both?
Yeah, so on the job boards, like if there was an SDR job there and it says the hiring manager's there, I would just message and then sort of take it from there. But I wouldn't just do one message and hope for the best. It's basically getting a role in tech sales is a sales role itself, in my opinion, because you have to go out there, speak to these hiring managers, message hundreds of people, and then hopefully someone gives you an interview. And if you once you get an interview, you get the role, you basically sold yourself, right? So I feel like that's the best route, in my opinion. And I reached out to hiring managers and to people in different organizations as well, just to sort of build that relationship and have some form of common ground. But not everyone's going to respond and not everyone's going to get back to you. And I think it's quite important to think as well that even in the role, you know what you're getting yourself into. You can make 60 to 80 calls a day. Only one person might answer. They might tell you, you know what, I don't want to speak to you. So I feel like the expectations should be clear that this is not easy. It's grind, it's tough work. But I feel like I'm the sort of person that I love that. I feel like I've sort of, once I've got into it, I've enjoyed it more now. And I feel like if you have that mindset of like, you know what, let me try and get someone on the phone, speak to them, this, that, and the other, and try and convert something, you'll be fine. But you got to have a positive mindset and you got to have good belief systems within yourself as well.
Hold on. All right, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
No worries.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Great questions, McFadden. Really good answer, Haseeb. Stephen, what's your question to Haseeb?
Hey guys, I see. I'm basically new to the community, and there's just one thing you mentioned which was quite interesting to me. What's the process of cold calling a hiring manager? Like, what is that?
Sure. So cold calling a hiring manager. So I used an extension called Outreach, which is quite known for SDRs. And so what I done was I downloaded that and done a bit of a trial. I done a trial error or trial period. And so what I done from that was I extracted specific people who I wanted numbers for. And then once I got their numbers, I would call them, and basically before calling them, I'll do a brief research on the company, what their sort of product is, and why I'd think I'll be a good fit, sort of thing. And then I'll just sort of have a conversation with them, and then just take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that sounds great.
One thing I would add to that. Yeah, sorry. One thing I would add to what Haseeb said. So basically, cold calling hiring managers is actually very simple, right? So what you do is, imagine if you want to work for Google, right, or Amazon or whatever. You go to the Google page on LinkedIn or to the Amazon page on LinkedIn. You search for the hiring manager. You can search hiring manager, HR, whatever. You go onto their LinkedIn profile. You can use outreach.io. You can use Contact Out. You can use Lucia. These are all Google Chrome extensions that you install on your Google Chrome, and then it pops up on your LinkedIn. When you go to people's profiles, you click that, pulls out their email and phone number, and then you use the script. We've already given you guys a script in the program. Use the script to call them up. Okay, does that make sense? That's the process.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you, brother.
No worries. My friend asked.
Yeah, sorry to cut a turn again,
No,
but could you just send all of that to the WhatsApp GC? That actually be so helpful. I feel like.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys after. Yeah, the name of the
appreciate that.
the tool and the process. So I want to go to the next question from Ahmed Haseeb, which is just wanted to check in. How was the first 3 months been for you? How's the product? How is the product you booking meetings for, landing with clients? Also, how close are you to hitting your quota? So he's basically saying, how are you doing? Are you hitting your quota, or are you on track to hitting your quota? And what's your experience been like?
Yeah, so far my experience has been quite good. I booked a meeting, the first one in my cohort to do it, and I am on track for my quota. So I've been ramped up. I've got 2 to be sat tomorrow, and I had 2 last week. So things are going well, and I feel like the more you're in the role, the more you're calling, the more you're speaking with people, the more objection you're getting is the more where the learning comes from. On the onboarding, there's a lot of like materials and calls you got to go on, which is all great and fine. But I feel like the real learning comes from when you're out in the field, when you're out making calls, when you're getting curveballs, when someone's doesn't want to speak to you, when they say they don't have budget, this, that, and the other, how you overcome those. So yeah, I feel like the more you do the role, the more experience you get, the more months you get underneath your belt with the learning curve with the learning and the feedback from managers, you'll be fine.
Awesome. So
apart from that, I'm on track with anything, and I'm really, really happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Iffy, what's your question to Haseeb, brother? I know you have your hand up.
I see. Just a quick question. How would you answer or handle the objection, I'm not interested?
So what I'll first do is I'll understand from their perspective that they're not interested. Then I'll ask my open-end question. And I think when you ask an open-end question, they're going to respond to that. But if you just say, okay, that's fine, then you've not got nothing back from them. So just to give a bit of context, look, I totally understand you might not be interested at this present time. But just out of curiosity, why is that? Is that because you've got something in place, or is it because, I don't know, just anything? So open-ended, confirming with them, you get where they're coming from, and then asking an open-end question, I think is quite important. I don't know, like, you got anything else to add to that as well?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly how I would handle it, right? So when you call someone and they say, I'm not interested, well, the obvious thing is, what are you not interested in? I didn't even tell you what I'm calling about. And then down the line, so if they say, I'm not interested after you pitched your thing, then it's a matter of just asking follow-up questions. Obviously, always tell the client that you understand where they're coming from. Or, for example, you could say, I hear what you're saying. I can appreciate what you're saying. Open-ended question or a follow-up question to get. And the reason that you always ask follow-up questions or open-ended questions is because, generally speaking, there is no, when someone says, I'm not interested, it's usually the price, the product, the contract terms, or an external person that they're dealing with. But they're not telling you that. They're just saying to you, I'm not interested. The real objection on the back end, at the end of that process, is because of a specific reason that they have. So you're just trying to get to that specific reason. So, for example, if they say, not interested, what are you not interested in? It's too expensive. Okay, now we get into the actual conversation. Now let's actually look at our pricing versus pricing of your second service provider that you're looking at, etc., etc. So very easy to handle that. That's basically how I'd go about it. Does that make sense, Iffy?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. We can even do a little exercise at the end. Rick, what's your question to Haseeb, brother? What's your question?
Haseeb, what did onboarding involve? What was in the onboarding process, and what did they expect from you when you joined up, etc.? Like, what did they want from you?
Sure. So on the onboarding, you have, like, for example, your booklets and meetings about, for example, the product and everything else that comes with it. So it's just a bit more about the company, the product, the sales training methodologies that we use, force management on Ascender. So we're doing a bit of that, and it's just a lot of like training, how to handle objections, how to overcome them, and yeah, it was generally across those lines, something like that.
Let me ask you another question, actually, a follow-up question, which is probably even a better question to ask in this scenario. What was the training like? What kind of training do you get? How long is the training? Could a beginner with no sales experience actually ramp up like you did, or would they struggle? Like, what do you think?
Sure. So in the first half, our managers told us, like, when it comes to training, like, just take it easy, because once you get onto your desk and stuff, it's going to be a bit more hands-on. I feel like it's quite easy for anyone to sort of understand. Everything just is in your calendar, like all the information is there. Each meeting you go to, they tell you what it's about, and of course you're with other people as well. So if you do get stuck and stuff, they will let you know. They also have their own platforms of like, I don't know, Achievers University, where you can go and learn stuff, and you just have some courses to do on that as well. But they give you a pack and a guideline to work towards, and week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, they've got all the relevant information there that you just have to tick off basically.
So even if you didn't have any sales experience, you still believe that you ramp up like you have now because the training.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because the training is good there. You're getting live calls with leaders from North America and different parts of the world. Who have got experience in different fields. So I feel like 100% the training is all there. I'll say ask questions, absorb as much information as you can, and yeah, just fire away. I say the most important thing is ask questions, but ask the right questions as well. Because nobody wants to hear like silly questions, or if that means like on and on, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to be the guy that asks stupid questions. Let me ask you a more interesting question, actually, and obviously reveal what you can. Right, you don't have to reveal what you can't reveal. But from your understanding, who or how much are the best reps making at your company? Do you know?
I would say around, after tax, I would say probably about 4.5.
4.5. What do you mean?
Yeah.
4.5?
4.5 grand a month.
But that's not. Is that the best reps, or is that the SDRs, account executives?
No, that's the SDR. Some of the SDRs are.
So some of the SDRs, so pre-tax, it's about what, 6.5, 7?
Around there, I would say.
That's about, what is that, 80 to 100K, or
80 to, yeah, around 80, 85, 90.
So even the sales development representative guys are making about 80. The best ones are making 80 to 100K.
Yeah, the one with experience, they've got HR tech experience, and they've got more connections and more people that know in the industry. So that plays a massive role as well. And it's good to point out that nothing happens overnight. And of course, you've got to get your reps in, get your months in for you to get somewhere. But I feel like you've got clear vision and clear goal of where you want to go, you'll be fine.
What about the best account executives? Do you know how much they're making? Like how much money?
I think they're enough. Yeah, they're making. I think one made what do you call it in a quarter 6 figures.
In one,
So
that's 4 months, right?
Yeah, so that says a lot. I'll say around a couple hundred easily.
Couple 100K. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's why we're all in this business. That's why That's why we're all happy to cold call people all day to get rich. That's the only reason we do this. Enough of that. Do you guys have any other questions? Doing any interview questions, any job application questions? Please feel free to ask. But if no one's asking a question, I'll go again. The question I have for you, bro, is when would you be promoted to an account executive? Like, what does the process look? Do you have to keep hitting quota? Do you have to do another interview? What does that process look like for you?
I think for now, because I'm still quite new to the role, I wouldn't really know what it looks like in my current company. But I know what my goals are for now is just like keep on doing what I'm doing, keep on learning on the role, and then we'll see where the future sort of takes us, if that sort of makes sense.
Right. Okay. So you would be potentially looking to, just progress, hit your targets, which is the most
important. Hit your targets, be consistent where you think, get your reps in. We do have metrics of what the expectation is of how many calls and conversations and people you add to prospect. So just keep it doing them consistently. And I feel like if your managers see that you're making 60, 70, 80 calls a day and you're consistently on the ball with stuff, that's what they want to see.
So just 1 second. Zishan, you can go ahead with your question.
That happens with experience and with time. But my own other advice is that even if it's your first couple of weeks, like don't do any calls because you're shy and stuff, or people might hate you. That's part of the role, and no one's gonna laugh at you if you make a shit call. It's just you're trying and you're putting in the effort. That's what counts.
Let me just have a quick note to that, right? This is the time to stop being shy. Like if you guys are shy right now, this is the time to stop being shy. You guys need to stop being shy. Like whoever, I'm sure no one's shy on this call, right? Everyone's very confident. But if you're shy, or if you think you're shy, you need to level up right now. Go and talk to people on the street, call hiring managers, post videos on TikTok, on LinkedIn. Like really get rid of that mindset of being shy, because that's going to be the thing that holds you back. Not just in tech sales, but for the rest of your life. Like being shy is not like it's pretty bad. Like it's you're gonna lose out big time. Okay, I just want to make a huge point about that. Iffy, what's your question, brother?
Hi, so my question is about, he talked about standing out, or reaching out to hiring managers and seeing how you can add value. What are some good answers to, state how you can like add value? that would catch their attention?
Maybe doing a brief summary of why you think you'd be a good fit for a company, doing a bit of research on that, or if you saw something in the annual report which stood out to you, which aligns with something of your own personal goals. I don't know, they might have had super growth in the last year or so. You could talk about why that's, I don't know, important to you or something along those lines. But I feel like the first initial message is to try and capture their attention and hope for them to give an interview. And then when you get to the interview process, that's when you sort of more like dive deeper into why you'd be a good fit, do a bit of research on them, on their LinkedIn profile, if they worked at the company for, I don't know, 10 years or 15 years. Why have they stayed? If you've seen they've been promoted, what have they done to make them stand out? So questions are along those lines, I'd say.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. There's a question here from Abyan. The question is, hi Haseeb, any interviews which threw you off in the interview process? So I'm guessing, was there any questions that you weren't expecting, or was there any questions that you were struggling with, or like that threw you off?
I'll say when I first started, they was asking me about tech stacks. So they're asking me about certain tools, and I didn't know the answer to them. So I sort of blocked that, if I'm going to be honest. But I was quite surprised why they asked me that in the first place, because they shouldn't have expected that from me. But apart from that, I feel like not really. They're going to ask you more about your background. Why do you want to work for them? What would you do in certain situations? And I feel like the most generic ones you should have a sort of answer for.
Yeah, that's a good point. So most of these interview questions are going to be similar to interview questions that you've had in the past. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about your CV. Why do you want to work here? Like pretty much any job that you guys have ever had have asked you those questions. So they're not that hard. The question about the tools, the tech stack thing is actually a good thing. Good thing that you reminded me. Like whatever you've added to your CV, make sure you understand what that is. And you can just literally spend 35 seconds to go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, what is this thing? Explain it to me as if I'm a 5-year-old. And then it will tell you what it is. And then you explain that to the hiring manager. Because they're not going to ask you technical questions, but they might ask you, what's HubSpot? Feel free to put your hand up or unmute yourself. In the meantime, Haseeb, so what are your goals for the year? Do you have any goals about getting promoted? Do you have any goals about, hitting your targets, or just any general goals that you have for your career would be really good to understand?
Yes, I would say my goals for the year will be, after years, is be promoted in AE. So what I'm trying to do now is consistently just hit my metrics every single day, hit my quota, have as much conversations as I can, do more than what other people are doing, and I feel like I just want to stand out. And I feel like if I can stand out and shine out a bit more, it'll put me in a stronger position. And I feel like, yeah, it's going well so far. And I feel like working from home sometimes gives you that sort of like no distraction in the office sort of thing. You got your head down and you're just cracking on with it. But one thing I would say is that it is a sales role. You're going to hear more no's than yeses.
Of course.
So I feel like you should go into the mindset of knowing that it's not something that's easy. You got to grind, you got to hustle, and you can't, like, for example, I know someone that made 100 calls one day and they were like, I didn't speak to anyone. Like, it's part of it. You might have 1-2 days where you might not speak to anyone, but you just got to keep up picking up the phone and trying to convert as much business as you can, because that's what these people want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question from me is, you mentioned something about people having industry network and experience, like people that are doing really well, they already have contacts in the HR industry. What would you tell people that come from specific backgrounds? So for example, Abyan comes from a finance background, Zishan worked at PwC and has an accounting background, and some other people have, retail background, whatever. What would you advise them when it comes to picking an industry to work in or a company to work in? What would you say to them? What would be your advice?
I would say if you come from like a finance background, if you get into fintech, I think that would help you a lot, because you already built some relationships and connections in your previous roles, which you can then further take into this current role, and you might be able to make certain things work, and then it'll make you stand out from your peers and your managers and stuff. And I feel like the more you do that, people, even when they look at your LinkedIn profile, they know, look, this guy's got a finance background, he's working at SDR in the fintech space, he knows what he's talking about, sort of thing. We can sort of trust him. There's a bit of reputation behind the guy because he worked in the industry on both sides, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great point. Okay, guys, we're gonna end the call if there's no final questions. What would be your last piece of advice for everyone listening? And like no one on the call today has landed a role yet. They're all actively participating in the program. Any final words of wisdom or any advice that you would leave them with?
Yeah, final words of wisdom I'll say is that treat getting a tech sales job a 9 to 5. Put as much work as you can. The more work you put in, the more you're going to get out. Don't expect us to do, like, I know Bilal, you mentioned to me as well that I do a couple hours a night here and there. That's great. But if you go above and beyond, that's what's going to make you get one step forward. I remember on my days off on a Wednesday, because used to work in retail, I used to sit there on my desk, treat it as a 9 to 5 and speak to as many people as I can and send out as many emails as I can. And I wrote that down as my goal that I'm going to land a role in tech sales in early 2025, and I achieved that. So you got to be really tunnel visioned, and I feel like it's how bad you want it, because if you want it that badly, nothing can stop you.
That's also
No rejections, no hiring managers, no someone telling you ain't got the confidence. No, nobody can stop you. As long as you have that mindset, that belief that I'm going to do this by this time length or whatever, you will smash it. But you've got to put the work in. You've got to put the work in.
100%, 100%. Actually, one final question: what's the lifestyle like in your current job? So, what time do you start? What time do you finish? Do you have flexibility? Are you managing to have like a healthy life work balance? How's that going?
Yeah, so it's great. I work 3 days from home and 2 days in the office. The culture in the office is amazing. Managers are really great. My team is amazing. We have socials where we go out and stuff, so we will participate in that as well. And overall, it's a great experience. Work-life balance is really good as well, because you can work, for example, on a Friday, you're working from home. So if you want to go out, I don't know, to see your friends at 6, 7 o'clock, you don't have to worry about coming home and stuff. You can just get ready at 5 and go, sort of thing. So I feel like, because I've never worked in a hybrid role before, and I feel like it's an amazing thing, and I'm only grateful to Bilal yourself for opening this sort of experience to me, and for me putting the hard work in as well.
Amazing, brother. Well, we don't have any more time. Thanks so much for coming on the call today, bro. Really appreciate it. Inshallah, we'll have you on back on this call soon. But all the best to you, man. Thanks again for your time, brother.
Yeah, no, definitely. Anytime you need me, I'm always here, mate.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, guys.
All the best.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Take care.